Hello, welcome. I'm glad to speak to you, and I'm glad to be at the AEMS in Vienna again. I think we all have a great chance here to discuss very important topics. My name is Bernd Villhauer. I'm the managing director of the Weltethos Institute at the University of Tübingen in Germany. And our institute deals with questions of the ethics of economics. So maybe I'm the right man to inform you about some elementary, some basic questions about money. And I'd like to speak to you on a philosophical ground and an economical ground because I myself, I'm both philosopher and economist. And so maybe we can shed a light on these topics. Welcome, and let's start with why is it useful to use philosophical argumentations in the field of economy? That might be odd or strange, but if you remember that one of the main heads in the history of economics, Aristotle and Adam Smith, were both philosophers. Adam Smith, he is seen as the founding father of modern economy, was a moral philosopher, and his main books and his main interests were in the philosophical field. So it might be interesting to analyze economics with the help and with the tools of philosophy. And that's what we're trying to do here. And maybe you can learn something of that. And if you don't, please tell me. So I'm starting with myself. I said I'm an economist and philosopher. I'm the managing director, and I work in the field of finance, investment, stock markets, and so on. We have a little institute here, about 20 persons, and we have several problems, several topics we deal with, like human rights or sustainability. And I'm the man for the finance. So yeah, let's start with finance. I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see if that works. So, all right, that looks good. Okay. I hope you can see it, and I hope you can hear me. We bought this fancy microphone here, and I hope it will work. So, money and moral, basic questions about economics and ethics. That is the point, and let's get started with it. Who is speaking? I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Global Ethic Institute, the Weltethos Institute, and then we speak about freedom and liberties, then about money, and then we bring these both things together, freedom and money, and let's see how that works out. The Global Ethic Institute in Tübingen. We were founded in 2012, and we concentrate on business ethics, executive education, for managers and startups. We have a theory of economics section, and we are concentrating on intercultural studies because we really want to have the global view on these things. Our whole activities are based on the thinking of Professor Hans Küng, who was a theologian or is a theologian at the University of Tübingen. And he, as we see in the next slide, tried to show that there is a kind of a global ethic understanding between the cultures. And there are some values and some ways to think about moral and ethical issues that connect people. I think that is one of the main things we are reflecting here. What connects people? Because you all know many things that divide people and that bring people, in conflicts and so on. But we at the Institute try to look at what connects them, what brings them together. How can we cooperate? And we all know that, economy, global economy, the markets are no places where connections and cooperations are, esteemed very high. But nevertheless, I think, and we think that economy is a system not only as of competition, but also as of cooperation. And to look at this cooperation aspect is really helpful, especially in the case of money. So let's go on. What are these connecting global values? Professor Küng, as I said here, described an overlapping moral consensus, an overlapping consensus in the world religions and beliefs. And he found some themes and some issues that are common in the whole world community. For example, that they have a certain understanding of humanity, that you should not treat people like animals or things, but like human beings, that there is something special about the human, something you cannot just, see in an instrumental way to use people for certain issues. It comes in the form of slavery or others. People are special. Human beings are something special, and you really should value that, and you should see their worth and their value. That's the first thing, humanity. The other thing is reciprocity. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's a basic rule, and you can find this rule in all of the world religions, in all of the great faith systems. You'll find this understanding that it's good if you treat others like you want to be treated. And so these two things, humanity and reciprocity, are really basic beliefs in a kind of human world community. And there are some other values adding to these basic orientations. This is first truthfulness, then justice, partnership, peacefulness, and sustainability. So that's not to say that all of this is perfect all over the world and all religions. I mean, as a Protestant, I know what I'm speaking of. That all religions, to cling to these and are valuing these things, but the motives are there, and the rules are there. So the idea is, how can we use these motives to bring people together, to establish intercultural, transcultural communities? And we do this especially in the field of economics. So we are interested in the ethical and philosophical foundations of economic thinking. And that goes for three main topics. That's money and freedom and values. Money, freedom, and values. These are the things that are very interesting for us, and we think that these things or these systems shape the world. Money shapes the world. Our understanding of freedom shapes the world, and how we deal with problems like climate change, and especially values. So, what we're speaking about is ethics. But what is ethics? Everyone has a different definition, and everything, thinking of something different if he speaks or she speaks about ethics. Let's have a little definition here as well. Ethics in this case and in this little presentation means the study of principles relating to right and wrong conduct. Ethics deal with what we believe and what we should believe to be good or bad. It also deals with the moral obligations that those beliefs imply. Ethics, therefore, involves rules for deciding right or wrong and the code of conduct. So ethics is not something abstract somewhere in a heaven of ideas or so, in a distant realm or whatever. It is something that is very important for our behavior, our decisions. Ethics is reflecting about good or wrong, bad or good decisions. That is a very, very important thing. And in the following slides, you'll see that I'm always trying to show you that money and thinking about money leads to certain decisions. So let's look for the next, freedom. I'd like to explain why there are very different forms of understanding of freedom. Philosophical understanding of freedom can be in a quantitative way. So you look at freedom, at your possibilities, at your liberties, only in thinking of more opportunities, a kind of an independence from limits and restraints. So the classic thing is, the classic example is, does the state give me more opportunities or less? Is he limiting, my behaviors and my possibilities to choice, or is he enlarging that? So you have only a number of opportunities. Maybe you can buy, let's say, 10 cars, and it's better to have the possibility to buy 100 cars, or you can use one road, but it's better to use 3 or 4 roads. This is the first understanding of freedom of a number of choices. And the second one would be a qualitative freedom. So there are certain qualities of choices. There are different roads. You could use, the little road through the jungle, or you could use I don't know, the interstate or so, or you could have the choice between having 10 kinds of food, 10 kinds of burgers, 10 kinds of sausages, and they're all crap. Or you have the choice between three and they're all good, or they are very different. So the quality, not only the quantity of choices, but also the quality of choices is very, very important, especially if we think of sustainability problems or the good life. In economy, you have a recent debate about the good life. What is the good life? Why are we happy in some societies and others not? So that has to do with the quality of choices and the quality of possibilities. So in the qualitative area, you have better or other opportunities, and you think about the empowerment for changes and life models, not so much the limitations, but the empowerment, what is possible. Different understandings of freedom are, and that is why we're speaking about that here, they lie behind the understandings of the economy and especially of the money. So again, quantitative freedom is more of the same, but you have limitations and you have a certain, quantitative possibility of choice, or you have other possibilities, other choices. So more of the better, specific purposes of money. That is a thing I will be talking about later. There's not only one use of money, not only one system of money. There are different systems, and we should acknowledge that. We should see that money can be used in very, very, very different ways. And I'm asking you, and I'm kind of supporting you, or I try to motivate you to think about what your understanding of freedom and of liberties is, and how that shapes your understanding of economic problems. So, for example, what does freedom mean for the construction of money systems? What kind of money systems are enabling people and are making it possible to have quality choices? And what does pluralism mean for the construction of money systems? Is it necessary and is it right that we have one understanding of money, that there's one kind of money we are using? Or should we have certain different kinds of money? One money for example, regional economy. One money maybe for the international exchanges. Maybe one money for special social tasks. There is a thinking of a time money, that time is money, and then if you invest in social systems, you get back a certain account of time. Or what forms of money systems are based on principles on free and pluralistic exchanges? Are there really exchanges? Is there a symmetry between the exchanging partners? And how can we empower and enable people through money? Because normally, I mean, I don't know what your situation is, but normally people see money as a restricting factor. I would like to go there and do that, but I don't have the money to do it. Um, is that how it should be, or is there a possibility to think about money as an enabling system? And is there a democratic and pluralistic way to deal with debt, for example? That's an interesting question. I mean, we all would say that democracy is a good thing, and we'd like to live in democracies and in a democratic system, and we'd like to decide what we are doing. But is money a limiting factor here? Or how is it? How is the relation between democracy and money? I think in this conference you learn from people like Christian Felber that political questions are not to be distinguished from the economic questions. A political system supports a certain economic system, and an economic system supports a certain political thinking and understanding. And that is very important. And that's only to be understood if you look at the philosophical problems of money. That's where we're going. Money, the second part. You see, it's not a problem. You're in the second part now, so you're halfway through. What ethical questions can be put about money? Money certainly shapes our conduct. It influences us. I mean, money makes things possible, makes you able to come to Vienna to see this conference. The second part is money is always based on trust. Think about it. If you use money, you expect the others to accept it. You know, if you want to buy, let's say, a sandwich, and the people in the sandwich shop say, "Oh no, I don't trust that this money is really working. You know that has a certain value." There's always a level and a basis of trust for money. Money is a trust-based system. Then the third point is why we should ask ethical questions. Money always means power. That's kind of a very stupid thing to say, and it's very obvious. But you know, let's just think about it, and let's really take it seriously. Money always means power, and if you want to change the world, and now I'm sure you know, looking at the AEMS, that are some people who want to change the world, and I can only say, you know, go for it. But without money and without the strategies of money using, you won't reach anything. So money, the fourth part, is a key element for all economic purposes. Is there an economy without money? Well, think about it. Do you know economic situations that work without money? Normally we would say that money is an ingredient, is an important part of all economic purposes, all economic processes. But historically, you might see that there are cultures, there are states and traditions where money as we know it has no meaning and is not really important even for economic exchanges and economic problems. So we should, you know, mark the territories on which money is a key element and should support and can support economic purposes, and the other territories where it's not. And the last point here on this slide, money always works as a transcultural force, because money in a world is the world citizen, you know. Well, we all want to be world citizens and see the whole world and, you know, think globally and so on. But if you really give it a thought, money is the power that unites people all over the world. Money makes it possible that, you know, Chinese goods are sold somewhere else, or that things are produced and brought to Europe. And money makes it possible. Money is the great kind of a lubricant, or so, the kind of enabler to connect continents and states. So it's always a transcultural force. And it is a mighty force that makes, you know, former enemies to friends, or at least to partners in exchanging processes. Sorry. So money as a transcultural force is in a way a very positive thing. And some say yes, but it also destroys cultural scenes and certain, you know, national cultures and their ethics. So think about it. Transcultural forces of money are very important and they are very mighty. And why is that so? I mean, if you take another philosophical look at money, you'll find that money is not only based on trust, it's always based on social interactions. So interhuman exchanges are creating the power of monetary systems. If you make this little experiment to think, what would it be if I would be the only person in the world? You know, you would need any money. You wouldn't have anyone to exchange things with. You wouldn't find a way to use your money. It takes two, not only to tango, but to use money. You know, money is only necessary and makes only sense in social systems. Money itself is a kind of a social system. You know, I'm thinking and I'm reading and teaching about money since, let's say, 20 years now, and I found very, very different definitions for money. Some say, you know, money is a language. Some say money is a way of thinking, it's a form of thinking. Some say money is a symbol system. But one very important thing is money is a social structure, is a social systems connecting people. And if that's true, and I think there are good arguments to find, then how can we understand money then? Not only by mathematical problems or mathematical structures and models. I don't know whether there are many economists here in the room or in your group, but if you look at your studies and the curriculum, you'll find that the mathematical approach is very, very important. It's always modeling, it's always statistics, and so on. But to understand the social interaction, the way money is based on social interactions, you have to understand the psychological dimension, the sociological dimension, the historic dimension, and the ethical dimension, because these exchange processes between people through money are psychological processes, for example. They are in a sociological setting. They have a certain historic development. And of course, they have ethical effects, so moral effects. So looking at money, you should really have certain instruments there, not only the mathematics, but the sociology, history, and so on. One interesting example are a crisis. While we're in midst a crisis, the Corona crisis, and we had seen the financial crisis in 2007, 8, 9. And to understand this crisis, you really need a historic understanding. You really should know what happened, in the 20s and 30s, in this financial crisis, or why is the crisis of today in many ways similar to the crisis during the Spanish flu, and what are the differences? So, without history, without a historic approach and a historic understanding, you can really not understand what money does and what money is. So I'm kind of I want to tell you, don't look only at the present. The past is teaching a lot to us, and these teachings can be understood in certain areas. For example, debt or interest, accumulation, dislocation, injustice. All these are problems connected with money and money distribution. And all these problems are global problems. So this is the second part I want to emphasize. Have the broad view, not only in a philosophical sense, but as well in a global sense. Money as the world citizen, as I said, means that you have to look at it globally and to understand globally. Um, every economy, for example, the German economy where I live in, is highly connected with other economies and highly connected with other flows of money. So if you really want to solve a problem like the climate crisis, for example, if you really want to go forward to that, don't look at the national containers. Don't look at only the national circuits, but on see it on the global base, and look at the money processes and the money flows through the countries and globally. So yeah, you reach the third part. So you see, it's not so hard. Freedom and money. How can we think that together, and what are the interesting and main things here? Let's ask how these global economic and money changes play out in these three fields: sustainability, justice, and peace. And as I said, all these topics are connected with the international money and currency systems. Okay, they cannot be solved without a global approach. For example, sustainability is very important here in the Institute as well. And how can we think about making it profitable to invest in nature, in resources, in recycling and upcycling? How can we change the money winning and the money creating system to a system that values nature? Is it the right thing to set a price, for example, on pollution? Is that a good thing to create a market where these things are dealt with? Or is it more important to say, no, we isolate certain areas from the economic system? Should we make it more uh, economize, or should we protect it from economy? Is money really helping there? Is money helping to protect forests, for example? And how is the interest rate influencing our thinking of profit and investment? If you think of the nature of investment, to putting money in the present for the future, because you expect, things to grow, for example, or to develop in a positive way. Is that the influence rate really? Is it really an information about the future, or is it only an information about what many people think the future is? I might remind you of a very famous picture that John Maynard Keynes once used. He said, if you think of investments and of the stock market, it's a little bit like a beauty contest I once saw in an English newspaper. And the main question in this beauty contest, we showed, 20 pictures of beautiful, I think, beautiful women, but it works for a man as well. And the main question was not who is the most beautiful person here, but the main question was, who do you think will the majority of the readers think is the most beautiful persons? So think about it. The stock markets, the investment strategies, they do not deal with what is the best or the most beautiful, but what are people thinking is the best. Interest rates and investment strategies are highly influenced by majorities and by the somehow and sometimes irrational behavior of majorities. And like Robert Schiller once said, the irrational behavior and the irrational exuberance of people who are buying or selling investments. So thinking about sustainability and climate should be always connected with thinking of what is a market and where is a market to be established, especially a market that is organized with and in money. The next part, justice. Global economy, global economic changes for justice. How can we then make sure that every human being has the same chances and possibilities? Let's think of it in terms of money. Um, is it so that African people or certain Asian people or people in Middle and South America, in the global South, you might say, has the same access to, let's say, credits and money supplies as in the North? And why is that not so? Because if you look at Africa, which is a continent of so many possibilities, in terms of resources, in terms of skills, in terms of people, um, why is it so difficult to have credits for the companies that are starting there? Do we treat every people in the world really equally in creating money supply systems for all of them? And what can, for example, what can fintechs change there? Many say that, for example, cryptocurrencies would be a wonderful way, independent of states, to have a money supply for the whole world. Not only in national containers. Is that true? Is that really a good possibility for people? For example, in Africa, to pay, for example, with their smartphones or with their phones, with their mobiles. In many states there, it has been established. It's interesting to look at it and what it changed in the societies. And one other very important problem is how should be the wealth and the income be distributed, and can we influence it? I mean, can we shape a certain system of the distribution? You all know, and we all know, that there has been a day where Jeff Bezos, I think, earned, I think it was 17 billions in one day. That's very impressive. And you got to ask yourself, do we want that kind of economy? Do we want that kind of economic and money system that really makes it possible that one person earns 17 billions a day? Um, and it has a very hard political and psychological impact. What makes it to a society if you have one person that owns, let's say, the half of the BIP? Is that really good for the political system, for the democratic system? Because, as I said earlier, money means power, and they can buy a lot of possibilities to influence a lot of room in the TV or on the internet. So we really should ask what kind of money system makes it possible to be to live in a democratic and equal society. And the last point, peace. How is money causing social and cultural disruption? I said earlier that money is a transcultural force. Yes, that's true. And it kind of connects people, brings them together, but it always also divides people, because in certain areas they have different possibilities to earn money. Or let's think of the whole colonial thing, because our money system of today is deeply shaped by colonialism. And many of the Asian or African territories were forced into the money system by the colonial forces or the colonial states. And is that really that? Did that bring peace? Did they make it possible for people to live peaceful together? The slave trade, if you think of the slave trade in Africa, that was in a way established by the money system. And so think of the social and cultural disruption money might be causing. And how can we manage conflicts with economic measures, especially those that appear as political, religious, or military conflicts? Um, that's very interesting, because in the world of money, it's all about costs and risks. And if you think of the risk that come with certain political, religious, and military conflicts, and if you think we live in a world of money investment, can you monetize that? Can you say, it's better to avoid that or that conflict or war because of, the earning of money is in is in danger here? How are we thinking about these things? Can we put a price on peace? That is one question I would like to have you asked. So let's think about if that's true, that money influences all these aspects, and then we can think in terms of money about these aspects. Um, what projects are there, for example? I'm sure you'll hear during the conference a lot about certain alternative money systems. I'm just giving here a short list, but there's much more to go. Think of the regional money, where certain regions decide that they want to have circulation of their own. They want to have a certain, money system of their own, like during the Chiemsee, the so-called Chiemgauer, or the Boston, the Boston currency. Think of private money. Yeah, there are famous economists in the past, like Hayek, who are arguing that the state shouldn't be, concerned with money. It should be kind of a competition product, and we all should be able to give money out, and to be in a competition. And this is more kind of a neoliberal idea, but in certain areas it has an appeal, because we see that, the state structures and money, they do not always come together in a very productive way. The next one is money for the common good. You'll hear a lot about common good economy, and that's very interesting and useful. And money has a certain role for the common good. And I'll talk later about Christian Felber, who has written an interesting book about that. Virtual money, cryptocurrencies. I'm sure younger people, they normally have experiences with cryptocurrencies. They bought or they sold some of them. They know the differences, and they know what's going on in the crypto world. It is an interesting problem on many levels, because on some behalf or on many behalves, these cryptocurrencies are no currencies. But let's be honest, a currency that is not used, by many people, because, as I said, money is a social system, and it's only used to, let's say, to stock values or to speculate, is no real currency. But what is it then? I mean, the blockchain technology holds a lot of possibilities, not only for currency, but for many, many other things. And I think we should be honest about the currency aspect here. And so far, there is no real cryptocurrency in the full sense, because I mean, if you think at the main three functions of money, you all can read in the economic textbook that it's first a medium of exchange, and second a unit of account, and third a store of value. And for the cryptocurrency, you'll see that aspect of store of value, of course. Mm, Unit of account, medium of exchange. That is that's a different game here. So think about all these money systems, like the crypto system. Um, are there all three aspects in this, or is it only one aspect? The main aspect, and the others are sort of coming with that. And for example, a last alternative, time banks. If you look at Japan or other countries, you'll have a system of monetarizing time, using time as a currency. And I think that's very interesting, especially for the industrialized states, um, because we all have a lack of time. Time is so precious, and it becomes even more precious. And I think it's just it really makes sense to reflect the social function of money in a real social use of time, and with time accounts and all these things. So what will the future hold? As I said, fintech technologies are taken over in many, many, many areas. The banks have a real problem with that, because many functions of the banks, many areas of profit, are going to fintech technology. Then the working time accounts, I mentioned that time aspect, sharing economy, for example, with thinkers like Eisenstein or others. Um, it is interesting to look at that, because if you look at the sharing system of, let's say, cars, in Germany we had some great experiments, and many of them failed, because firms, companies like Daimler tried to set up a car sharing system, and they failed because their profit rate, was too high. Their expectations were too high. But little initiatives, local initiatives, are doing it very successfully. Like here in Tübingen, we have a car sharing system that works really well, but not, with a profit-driven great company in the background, but just by people connecting, people coming together, people organizing themselves. So it's not always, the big company that really brings the innovation, or that really creates a new structure. Sometimes it's just, little people coming together, organizing, and thinking about what can be monetized and what cannot be monetized. So for the future, it really becomes, and in Corona times, that becomes obvious, that we'll have protectionist political markets, even if, the elections in the US are resulting in the defeat of Donald Trump. The protectionist markets will go on, and they will be there. So it's sometimes say that, it's not a age of globalized trade, but we have a deglobalization. We'll see about that. Digital currencies, I mentioned. Low carbon economy, of course, is a problem you're discussing a lot on the conference, and that is right, and it's absolutely necessary. Um, you have to think about, in terms of money with the changing business models. We have a lot of startups here at the institute, and they all think, and there are two types of startups really. One think about, speculating and investing in the future, and they want to sell, in a few years, and then have their cut. And others are more in the field of social entrepreneurship, and they think of their distribution in a way of what is my impact in the society. What can I change with my new business model? And it always has a financial side. So if you're thinking yourself of starting something, or setting up a social entrepreneurship company or whatever, think of the flow of money. Think of what it does make with you and the others, and how all these things monetize. So it's always useful, because it's sometimes it's just the hard facts, and you see, oh, that won't work, sorry. I mean, it looks so good, to, I don't know, to cook soup for all the people in the city and give it away for free or so. But looking at the money side always helps to clear things, to have a cool and clear view on it. And the last thing, and that's one thing I'm dealing here a lot, the ethical funds. In the whole field of sustainability and sustainable finance, you have a lot of developments towards ethical funds, social responsible in investment, and so on. ESG criteria, that's ecological, social, and governance criteria. And I want to motivate you to think about that as a way of first transforming the market systems, and transforming really the rules of the game. But secondly, think of it as well from a philosophical point of view. What are the basic problems here? I mean, is it just to make you have good feeling, to gaining profits and having a good feeling about ecology and social problems as well? Or is it really transforming? What is the impact of such an ethical fund? If you only avoid, the wrongdoers, and you say, yeah, I'm not going to invest in, let's say, pornography or tobacco or arms or so, but I'm clinging to the clean things, like, what would you say, Google? Is that a clean thing to invest in? If you only avoid the bad side, you won't have a certain impact really on transformation and society. And do ethical funds really, really concentrate of what changes the world, what sets up new possibility of trade? That's a main question, and it's not very easy to be answered. So we're at the end of this, and thank you very much for your patience. I hope this was a little bit inspiring. You're very welcome to write me or to ask me questions, and I think we'll have the opportunity to discuss. So I'm coming back to this screen here. So I hope you see me now, because in the end, I wanted to show you four books. It's four books. Not everything I said comes out of this head, but reading helps, and I just wanted to name four authors and to show you what could be interesting to read. So the first thing is, there's Georg Simmel with his philosophy of money. That's you see 1,000 or so pages, so not for a weekend, but very inspiring, very interesting, and it really shows some deeper structures of the use and the understanding of money. And there's another thing that's more for the German part of the audience. That's here, Mehr, Christoph Türke, Mehr. That's the philosophy of money, also very readable. For the international audience, might be helpful, and many of you know it, I think. It's Charles Eisenstein. Charles Eisenstein, he's one of the champions of the sharing economy, and he really has an philosophical and, let's say, historical approach. And I do not agree with everything he says here, but he's a motivating guy, and maybe you could invite him to Vienna in another year. And of course, the last, and I'm sure that will be mentioned a lot on the conference, Christian Felber. The German edition says Geld, die neuen Spielregeln. I'm sure there's an international print of it. So yeah, Christian Felber. If you read these four books, you'll have a lot to learn. And so thank you very much. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy Vienna. I hope you enjoy the conference. I wish you a lot of interesting discussions, and all the best. So greetings from Tübingen in Germany, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.